back, relax, and maybe get yourself a snack. Me and you gonna have a little chat about books. Hey guys, so I'm back. I'm actually doing some more filming, quite close to my last video. Woohoo! So let's dive straight in. I want to give you guys an update on 2 of the books from Mr. B's that I recently read. I said to you in my last video, I showed you a little bit of them. If you want to know what the Mr. B's reading spa experience is, you can check out that video. I'll link it below. But basically, I got a couple of books from the reading spa and I've now read 2 of them. So I'm going to tell you what I thought. Was it good? Did they give me good recommendations? Let's find out together. So the first one that I read is this one, Perilous Times, and I have finished this book in, I think, about a week and a half, which at the moment in my life is pretty good going for me. I am definitely not reading as quickly or as much as I used to, although it has been increasing since going to the reading spa, so I can only credit that, really. But this book was kind of one of the gateway books to get me back into reading. I've definitely been reading more since picking this up. So for that, I have to give credit to the book. It was gripping. This story is 3 main characters. We have Mariam, we have Kay, and we have Lancelot. Lancelot is slightly less of a key player than the other 2, but they're all still important in their own ways. The nice thing about this book is that it is pacey, and what do I mean by that? I mean you can literally sit down and get straight into the action. There is no messing around with a load of world building, and the world here is wacky, to say the least. It is kind of a mishmash of lots of history from different points of time, all cobbled together and made into our current world, which is also in the middle of a climate crisis. So this world is not for the faint-hearted. It's definitely not somewhere you probably desire to live, but unfortunately for them, our characters live in this world. And we follow Mariam, who is a climate eco-warrior feminist. She really wants to save the world. She wants to stop the eco-climate crisis going on. She wants to take action, to stand up from the crowd, to do something about all the horrors and injustices that she sees, not just with climate, because that's a big issue, but also with the way the world has gone. People are kind of living a more nomadic lifestyle, traveling around or sticking in groups of like-minded individuals, which are not always good like-minded individuals. Quite often they have very extremist views and do a lot of not so nice things. So there's some pretty bad groups of people out in the world when we pick up the story, but Mariam is trying to do better, and in order to do that, right when we meet her, she is attempting to blow up a fracking facility because she does not believe in it, and she does not think that they should be doing that kind of thing and ruining the environment further. But when she's trying to do that, suddenly a dragon appears out of nowhere. And at the same time, we also get introduced to our other main character, who is Kay. Now, Kay is the brother of King Arthur, and Kay, along with all the other knights of the Round Table, actually made a pact with Merlin many, many thousands of years ago that they would be reincarnated after their life any time that the world was in peril, hence Perilous Times. Now, this contract, if you will, doesn't really dictate exactly when they come back or how they come back, but we know that they live under trees, ancient oak trees, I believe they are, and whenever the world hits a moment of real crisis, they get called back into being. So Kay kind of comes out from the earth. He's been asleep for a long time. He doesn't really know quite what's happened to the world in his absence, but he comes out at the same time as this dragon appearing and Mariam being there, and he's instantly thrown into the action, and he realizes, okay, clearly the world has had some trouble, shall we say, in the time that I've been asleep. I need to help. What can I do? So he and Mariam start traveling together, and that's where the story really begins. I won't say any more than that really about the story and the plot, other than I do think it's very action-packed. It very much follows a twisty path where the characters are going from place to place. It feels very much like an adventure. Lancelot has his own plot line, which does tie into the other 2, but I would say he's probably a more minor character overall. We don't get as much time with him. And to be honest, I think Kay and Mariam are the characters who are supposed to lead the story. Do I think the characterization was the best here? I don't. Personally, that's what let this book down a little bit for me. Whilst I really enjoyed the pacey style and the action-packedness and the fact that I could read it and pick it up and not feel like I'd forgotten anything, I didn't really feel connected to the characters at any point. And that was a little bit of a shame for me because they do go through some moments of peril and I just didn't feel like truly connected enough to care for them, to really be worried for them. I did enjoy the story. I do think it's a lot of fun, and I certainly think that this author has a lot of potential because I believe this is their debut in fantasy at least. So yeah, I definitely would read more by this author. This one I think is just a standalone. So as far as I know, there's not going to be any more in the series, but I would certainly read more by this author. I gave it in the end a 3.5, which is not a bad rating. It's just the characters that let it down slightly for me because I do want a bit more connection from my characters when I'm reading. But in terms of getting me back into reading and fantasy and just enjoying talking about books and having a passion for YouTube and passion to talk about books again, this book definitely did that. So for that alone, it's definitely amazing. And I'm really, really pleased that I found one that I did really enjoy from the Reading Book Spa. So that's a win. The second one, which I'm going to talk to you about, is this one, The Story of Silence. Completely different. This one is set in a kind of medieval England. However, there is some crossover in that we know Merlin made a pact in Perilous Times with the Knights of the Round Table, and he does briefly appear in that story. Merlin is a bit more of a big factor in this one. He does appear. He is kind of weaving some threads in the background, but he's also a bit crazed and been put under a curse. He's a background character who comes kind of more into the foreground as the story goes on. The real main character of this one is Silence. Now, Silence is a young person who is born as a girl by nature, but Silence is raised by nurture as a boy. Now, this story is actually based on an old epic poem which was found in a Nottingham dwelling, and this poem was very modern for the time that it was written. It was very forward thinking about how gender is dealt with. And so our author, Alex Myers, has come along to this text and has reimagined it basically in this story. They've kind of made it bigger and more expansive. We as a reader learn quite quickly why Silence has been raised in the way that Silence has, to be a boy. And actually for the beginning of the story, Silence doesn't even know that they are a girl by nature. They just believe themselves to be a boy because that's what they've been told. And it's only a little way through the book that they kind of get told the truth and why that is the case. And then they have this internal battle about, who am I? Who should I be? I don't want to be a girl. I've been raised a boy. I have desires and dreams and aspirations to be a knight. Now, this is kind of Silence's journey, not only to become a knight, hopefully, but also to uncover how they should feel, how they should connect their two sides of their nature and nurture. And I loved the discussion of gender in this. It was fantastic. It was really interesting, especially considering the source material that this is based on is so old. To see gender being a kind of more dynamic, fluid spectrum than we traditionally think historically of it. I really liked that. I really felt that the modern twists were there, even in the original, and then they've been pulled through nicely by this author. I really liked this. I really liked Silence as a character. I did feel like Silence had something going for them that the characters in Perilous Times didn't, and that was the fact that we truly get to see their intentions, their passions, their reasoning, and their life over a prolonged period. Whereas Perilous Times is very much an adventure story, this one follows the whole life of Silence, really, right from when they're born and even before they're born, and it's a told story that we are kind of being told as a reader. Silence is telling us as the reader, and we get to see their whole life. We get to see their reasoning, their justification, their understanding of themselves, and how that changed and developed over the course of the story. And I just really enjoyed this. I highly recommend it, actually. And it was a story I'd never heard of before the book spa, and probably never would have, because I don't tend to seek out stories that are largely historical with some very small fantastical elements in there. I would say this is a much more kind of medieval story of one person's life becoming this knight in medieval times when they are actually by nature a girl but raised by nurture as a boy. And I would say this story isn't necessarily something I would typically have sought for myself, but I was really, really excited about it when I heard about it at the book spa, and I'm so glad that I did get it because I ended up giving it 4.5 stars, and I certainly recommend this to anyone who's interested in any kind of non-binary, gender fluid, different ways of viewing nature and nurture, any of that. You're going to really enjoy this, I think. So I'd say so far the reading spa has done well. I've got one 3.5, one 4.5, and I'm hoping that the other books that I picked up, some of them will also get really good ratings. I will, of course, keep you guys posted as I read through some of the other ones on how much I enjoyed them. And do let me know if you are interested in picking up either of these stories down in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you again in another video soon. Bye everyone!
Thank you for watching my video today. Go pick up a book, then come back and chat with me again.